guy was 50 years old. He had 2 little daughters. And he was passing by, and he's a construction worker. I was passing by, and because this guy had a seizure, and guess what happened? Because he was close to the platform of the subway train, he fell into the track. And he's like shaking, and he cannot control it. He fell on the track. He was about to die. The train was coming, and the train was about to hit him. So he had no control, and everybody was just looking at him. They didn't know what to do. They had no, they thought, okay, this guy is gonna die, and everybody was just looking. And what happened? Wesley Autry, he's 50 years old, but he sees this little, the 20 years old guy shaking and on the track of the train, and the subway was coming. You could hear the sound, and Wesley just jumped into the track and rescues this guy. What happened? They didn't have time to move him around, so he goes to there's a like a subway track. Usually they have like a. If you see, there's a platform, and this is where the subway track is, right? And this guy fell. So this guy was like this on the ground, but there is always in the middle. There's a hole. So the Wesley outlet, he jumped into this guy, and he put inside the hole, and he stayed on the top of it. And the train just passed, and they were both safe, and they're alive. But this guy risked his life to save this guy. So this is the story of a hero. This is a hero. People call him hero because you know what hero is, right? Hero is someone who risks his life to save another person. So this is basically the story of that. Princeton experiment. We're going to read in the reading. Just for as a reference, I graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary. So this happened it's like a real next to the Princeton University, and they did an experiment with the Princeton Seminary students, so I could identify with his story very, very well. Dallas Willard. Dallas Willard is a very famous. He's a very famous guy. He's a USC professor of philosophy, but he's well known for his Christian beliefs. He made a great impact, and he's the most important, probably one of the most read books that he wrote was it's called The Divine Conspiracy, which talks about discipleship and how to be a real follower of Jesus. John Claypool is this guy I didn't know myself. I only came to know through the reading, and I just realized who he was. He's a famous Episcopalian priest, rector of St. Luke's Church in Alabama. This is the first time, so I really don't know much about him, but it seems that he's very well known also. N.T. Wright as his name is N.T. He is also a New Testament scholar. He's probably best known as the Pauline theologian. So Pauline theologian is a theologian who studies about the New Testament, especially the book about what Paul has written. Martin Luther, probably this guy is the most well-known among all those. He's a guy who founded the Protestant Reformation. He was actually a Catholic priest. I don't know back then. It seems that he was married already. I don't know. That's a weird thing, but he's really well known because he's the one who opposed the Pope authority, and he ended up making a movement. And he is also well known for translating the Bible into a popular language, which was German, because he was a German guy. And because of that, the people start to read Bible. Fred Craddock, for like pastors and for theologians, he's a very, very well known. He's one of the best known for his preaching. He's a preaching professor at Candler School of Theology, which is theology school in Emory. And also he's known for making a drastic change of understanding about the preaching and how the preaching should be done. So these are the people that are going to come out throughout the reading, and if their names comes, you probably will know a little bit better what they are and who they are and what they are here to do. Okay, how to be a hero. I just read this. We only have 3 more classes. The last class, I'm just going to ask you to come in and do some reading or do some handling project or something. Because, previously I had made a coming for the first week of August. And we have 3 more days. So how to be a hero. So let's start reading the story of a good Samaritan. It was just another day for Cameron Holliper. Remember Cameron Holliper, the guy who's this 20 years old guy? The 20-year-old film student was waiting on a platform in the New York City subway station. Out of blue, he began to suffer a seizure and fell to the ground. He then struggled to get back up again, staggering uncontrollably along the platform edge. People could hear the train rumbling through the subway tube toward the station. And then the unthinkable happened. Just as the train was about to arrive, Cameron fell from the edge of the platform onto the tracks. People stood helpless, frozen with fear and shock. Others cringed and turned their heads. In mere moments, a young man would meet an unthinkable violence, and because he had a seizure at the wrong time, in the wrong place, and no one could stop it. Except the one man who did, Wesley Aldridge. Wesley, a 50-year-old construction worker, was on the platform that day with his 2 daughters, ages 4 and 6. He was on his way to drop them off with their mother before heading to work. Wesley said, "I had a split-second decision to make. Do I let the train run him over, or do I jump in?" He jumped in. The headlights of the trains were bearing down on them. Unable to hoist Cameron back up to the platform, Wesley threw him into a 12-inch drainage just like a 1 foot, right? Through between the rails and dive on top of him to pin him down. Disoriented and confused, Cameron continued to struggle with his hero. The train driver saw the man and slammed on the brakes, but it was moving too fast, so he ran right over the top of the two men, with less than 2 inches to spare between them and the bottom of the train. The men were eventually both freed, unharmed, from their space underneath the train. Wesley Autry was hailed a hero, but he would have none of it. I don't feel like I did something spectacular. I just saw someone who needed help. Yes, but others can see there is something heroic when we do so. So this is a story of this guy who fell on the subway track, and the train was coming, and Wesley Autry, this another 50-year-old, he happened to be a black man. He just saw this this 20 years old kid on the track, almost to die, and he had a seizure. So he jumps into the track. He lays over his body over Cameron and saves his life. People were, and this was on the news because it was such a famous story. Because who would, give his own life, risk of his own life to save another person? And this really happened. This happened in 2007, 12 years ago, actually. Unexpected hero. Jesus once told us a parable about coming to someone's rescue. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to the test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law? He replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbors as yourself. You have answered correctly. Jesus replied, do this and you will live. Well, he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down to the road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for an extra expense you may have. Of which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. So this is a story of there was this man. He was going from a city called Jerusalem. This is a city called Jerusalem, to a city called Jericho. And this road is really tough road. This road is 18 miles long. So 18 miles is from here to El Monte, and from here to LAX, more or less, Los Angeles Airport. And just imagine going from here to Los Angeles Airport by walking, not taking a cab or driving. it's a long way, but this road is tough. It's not an easy road. It's a road that has valleys and mountains, and you have to go through a lot of different places. And this road is known to be a very, very tough road. And guess what? Many people who went through this road, because it's tough, but it is so necessary to go through this road, what happens in the middle, on the way? Usually, they would encounter robbers, bandits, people that were not so good, and they'll try to rob this person. So this person was walking this way, and guess what? Bad guys, bad robbers, they came to him and they assaulted him and they beat him up. So this guy was on the ground, suffering, and he was about to die. He had a bleeding. He was really bad shape. So what happened is, there are three people that passed by this guy. One is a priest. He was a priest. And he looked at him and said, okay, and then he just passed by. Second person was a Levite, which is like someone who serves the temple of God, someone who serves the tabernacle of God. So this person is a person who is a religious guy. And also the priest is also a religious guy. His work is to work as a priest and leader of a religious group. So they both just passed this guy. He's about to die, and he was bleeding, and he had no money. He had no one to help. And this this road is a remote road. Not many people would just go by because it was such a tough road. So what happened? The third guy was known as a Samaritan. Samaritan is this place is Jerusalem, and this is 18 miles, right? I said, right? And this is Jericho, and this is Samaria. Samaritans were well known as a second citizen people. People didn't like them too much. I know this is a hot issue, but some people, some countries they have certain people that were born in certain city, certain region, they would be considered as a second-class citizens. So they had a problem with the Samaria because Samaria was always there were a lot of mixed marriage, and so. According to Jewish standard, these were the people that were always being married with other countries, other nations, other ethnic people. So this is a mixed people. So the Jewish people never thought that they were good people. They always thought that they were doing the bad things. They were believing the wrong religion. They had a mixed religion. So they would, they didn't have a good reputation. But so this is a guy who was a Samaritan. The people that consider the Samaritan people as a second-class Jewish people, and this guy is the one. But Jesus used this story to tell that this Samaritan, he looked at this guy and he felt pity. He felt something in his heart that felt that he needed to help him. To treat him for the injuries, and took him to the inn, and pay the owner of the inn. Inn is a hotel, pay to the guy, and say, I'm gonna give you something like $200. I'm gonna give you about $200 for you to help him. It's 2 denarii. Help this guy heal. And on the way back, I'm gonna give you more. If you need more money, I'll give you even more. So this is a guy who stopped at a person who's very injured, that needed help actually. Out of all this, the priest and Levite, which were considered as religious people, didn't do anything, just passed by. The Samaritan, he stopped. He rode, took the guy, took him to the, made him paid for his treatment, and he said he's gonna come back and pay even more. And he didn't even know this guy. So the Good Samaritan story is a very well-known story. We all know this story very, very well. There are so many hospitals actually called the Good Samaritan Hospital. Actually, there is a Good Samaritan Hospital not too far from here. And so this is something that people use a lot. This imagery of someone who helps us, helps the poor, helps the injured, helps the people who are in need of help. So the Good Samaritan is always a symbol of goodness that we do towards the other, especially for those who are sick, ill, and who needs treatment. So this is a story that is based on the people based. And at the end, Jesus asked God, this is one thing that I want you to remember. He asked, which one is your neighbor? And they say, the one who had a pity. And he says, go and do likewise. So this is a command that Jesus gives to everyone here. Go and do likewise. Just don't go pass by someone who is in need. Someone who's asking you for help. Just don't ignore them. Go and do likewise. So what Jesus is really trying to say is, do not neglect those people who are asking you for help. And I think it's important that we do act upon this. So I hope that in this class also, you and I, not just you, but me too, we all somehow think about this all the time, that some people might need your help. And do this. Go and do the likewise. I'm going to tell you a story that it happened to me when I was 6 years old. This is a really long time ago, right? 6 years. I'm not telling you how old I am, but I was in Brazil back then. My father, he just learned how to drive. He only drove like 2 months, and then he decided to buy a car, a new used car, in a city called Brasilia, which was 1,000 kilometers from São Paulo. 1,000 kilometers? Do you have any idea of how many kilometers are? Probably those who are not from the US, you probably know kilometers better. The kilometers is, 1,000 kilometers is about 600 miles, right? So it's like going to San Francisco back and forth, right? Roughly. So he decided to drive, more than 12 hours. And he bought a car and he drove. And I was only 6 years old, so I was sitting beside him while he was driving. And this guy, my father is a new driver. As he drove, what happened? There were two incidents. He was going too fast. He was a new driver and he was going too fast. And guess what? And this was like in 1970s. His car just went off a little bit off the road, and we started spinning. The car was spinning so fast that I just remember that. I don't remember anything. It was just spinning. And then we fell into a ditch off the road, and it was a nighttime. I'm telling this story because we needed help. We couldn't get our car going because the car was in a ditch, we didn't know anything. And there was this guy who was this truck driver who just passed by and he saw us. He stopped his truck. He came back. He took a huge rope, tied our car to his truck, and he pulled us out of the ditch. And we were so thankful that he helped us because we really didn't know what to do. Next day, we went back to that place, and guess what? We had tire marks on the beach, and I opened the door. I was sitting on the passenger side when I opened it because it was pitch dark. I couldn't see anything. And I walk around and around the car. The next day, I just realized the tire marks were a little bit more than a meter and a half. I'll say about 2 yards away from a cliff. If I had walked a little bit further, I would have fallen into that cliff and died. Thank God that nothing happened, nothing bad happened. Just my father's accident, and then we came out alive. But we're so thankful for this the truck driver that my father didn't have anything valuable with him, so he wanted to give him something, but the only thing valuable that he had a pen that was a little bit more expensive pen, so he gave him the pen and we thanked him. And this was a homeless guy outside, and this guy came to me and said, "Hey, brother, can you share change?" And you know what? I was so busy. I was thinking, "Oh, I don't have time for this." So I say, "Later, bro." So I bought the stuff. And then I was about to leave, right? This is a homeless guy. You see homeless everywhere. And then I was thinking about the message, the lesson plan that I'm going to share with you today. I was too busy to help this guy. Then I was thinking, what a hypocrite I am. My other job, right? Besides teaching you guys, is because I am a pastor of a church, right? So I always teach this lesson. I say, you have to be good Samaritan. You have to be the good guy. You have to be the one who helps other people, right? But I was like, I'm too busy for this guy who asked me for a change. It doesn't hurt that much just giving him a change, right? And then I just left the donut place. And then I was like, oh man, you are a hypocrite. You're gonna teach about something that you don't practice in your life. You know what? Guess what happened? If I didn't turn back and go back and give him $1, I wouldn't have told this story, right? But I went there. I was just passing, driving, thinking about this lesson, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm such a hypocrite. I'm gonna turn around. I made a U-turn. I went back to the donut shop. I saw that guy and I said, brother, here is my $1, just buy you a donut. And then I came back. I feel good. I feel good that I can teach you something, and because I do practice. But my momentary temptation, I'm too busy to help others. I think it's everywhere, anyone, and to anybody. It's not just me, I hope not, right? I don't think it's just me, right? We often think we are so busy that we cannot stop to help others. And then we are doing so many important things that we do think that the people that need help is less important, right? But if you really think about it, this guy's life was in the hands of this person who needed help, right? Maybe, you could pass by not giving $1 to this homeless guy. But think about it again. I could be maybe 2-3 minutes late, but I could have given this person a breakfast, right? So it really depends on how you see life. It's a perspective of life. Sometimes we think we are too busy to help others, but being busy is good, but sometimes this could be a life-changing experience to some other people, right? So we're going back to this reading, 128. Rushing to leave, and the elderly woman stopped me and said, hundreds of cars drove by without stopping to help. Maybe they all thought I had it handled. What made you stop? I told her, I know you might think this is weird, but I stopped because I know that Jesus loves that man and he needed help. So this guy just stopped because Jesus loved this man, right? And he needed help. She said, when I saw him, he was stumbling around on the road. I knew he needed help, but I was afraid because I know I'm quite frail in my old age. I thought he might unintentionally hurt me in his confused state. This is very possible, right? Now she had me interested in how she overcame her fear and decided to help. So I asked her, with a delightful twinkle in her eye, with a delightful twinkle in her eye, she responded, you might think this is weird, but I stopped because I know that Jesus loved that guy and he needed help. It is not just priests or Levites of old who can be tempted to pass by and hurry along with internal justifications in mind. That can happen to me and you too. Pressure can do that to us. Years ago, researchers at Princeton University did a fascinating experiment based on this parable. They told seminary students, I can relate to this because I studied in Princeton, right? The Princeton experiment. This is the map, more or less. This is Princeton Theological Seminary. This is a seminary, and this is a university. And this is a graduate school, Princeton Graduate School. So the PTS, Princeton Seminary, is right between the Princeton Graduate School and the university campus. And there was this road here, and they were doing this experiment because there was this place and they needed to go crossover, and they made this is the image of what happened, and this is the experiment. Okay, let's go back to it. They needed to go across the campus to another building, so they need to cross to another building, right? One group was told they were to prepare a talk about the parable of the Good Samaritan, so they were talking about the Good Samaritan too. To vary the felt urgency in the schedule, the researchers told one group that they were running late in making it across campus. They told the other group that they had a few minutes but should get moving away. Along the way, the student passed a man sitting slumped in a doorway who moaned and coughed twice as they walked by. Unknown to the students, the moaning man was simply an actor playing the part. So this guy was just playing this, okay? What the research discovered was that the person in a hurry is less likely to help people. This was true even of students who were going to the other building to speak on the parable of the Good Samaritan. So these are seminary students. The students that are going to be pastors in the future, right? Just like myself. They were students. But when they were so busy, they just ignored this person who was in need of help. Some literally stepped over the victim on their way to the next building. People in a hurry, hurried by people. Their results seem to show that simply thinking about helping does not mean we will actually do it. We can be educated beyond our obedience. It also demonstrated that as the speed and pressure in our lives increase, our ethics suffer. As author Dallas Willard once said, to be a better follower of Jesus, we must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from our lives. So this is what happened. If we're rushed, if we're hurried, more likely that we're not going to stop to help others people, right? Because we are in a hurry. There's important things that we must do. And we ignore the people that are in need. Dallas Willard, very famous. He's as I said, he's an American philosopher, but Christian philosopher. He's very well known for many books, among them the Divine Conspiracy is the most famous one. He talks about, usually what is to be a true disciples of Jesus Christ. And he's the one who's saying, if we want to really follow Jesus, we cannot be in a hurry all the time. Sometimes we have to stop to think what is more important to us. Sometimes we have to stop to do things that are more important to us. I don't know if you have heard about the book called The Tyranny of Urgency. Sometimes we're so busy doing things that are less important, then we forget to do things that are not in such a hurry, but more important. And I'd like to ask you one thing. What is more important to you? Send a check with a due date. Is this something that is important to you? You're in a hurry, right? Or a morning exercise, or like some sort of a physical exercise to keep you healthy. What is more important, to send a check or to do exercise to be healthy for you? What is more important? No matter how much we send a check to keep our finances straight, which is really important, if you ignore our health and we get a cancer or something like that, there's no meaning, right? But sometimes we're so in a hurry that we do things that needs to be done now, urgent. We have to think that urgent is not the same thing as emergency, right? Emergency is when this risk of life, right? That is important. That is something that you need to do right away. But urgency is not emergency. Sometimes urgent thing, something that needs to be done right away, can be less important. But sometimes we think the things that needs to be hurried are more important. For example, what is more important for you? Going to work, or spend time with your loved ones. Both are important. You need to go to work, you know. But sometimes, because we're working so much, we're working many hours that that we think that we need to do it in order to make money and in order to live a life, you know, to keep the life living. And then we forget to live a life. We forget to spend time with our loved ones, which can be more important. When I was in New Jersey, 25 years ago, as a pastor, I was a pastor. There was this one lady. She owned a house in Alpine, New Jersey, which is really like a rich place. It's like a Beverly Hills in New Jersey. The houses are so big. They are like a $2-3 million houses. And her house was big. It was huge. It was more than 5,000 square feet. And she had a tennis court in her house, a swimming pool, a huge swimming pool. She had everything in her house. This garden was marvelously, it was beautiful, beautiful. And she made a lot of money because she owned a huge grocery market in Manhattan. You know, Manhattan, if you buy a bottle of water, it's $5. You can get a bottle of water for, I don't know, 20 cents, I don't know, here in Costco. But if you buy at a grocery, it's $5. You know, it's like a airport. They charge so much for a water bottle, right? $5 for a water bottle in the airport or something. But so she makes a lot of money. You know what? She wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning. She goes to work, which is like 40 minutes away. And she stays there in her grocery market, working the whole day until 10 o'clock at night. And then she leaves at 10 o'clock. From 10 o'clock, she comes back home. And she gets home close to 11 o'clock. What she does in home, she washes herself, you know, watches 30 minutes of TV, and sleeps. So all she does is wake up, go to work, come back, sleep, wake up, go to work, come back, and sleep. And she had a house with tennis court, swimming pool, with everything, wonderful garden. She never got to enjoy it. And I was thinking, is this wise living? Is this something that is wise living? No. Right? There are things that are important in our lives. There are things that are urgent in our lives. Well, sometimes we mix up those things. Sometimes urgent things can be less important. Sometimes we miss the more important things of our lives and do the urgent things. And we just keep on doing the urgent thing and miss the most important things in our lives. Okay. Overcoming the skepticism to love our neighbors. 129. Even when fear for our safety and lack of time do not keep us from loving those in need, our thoughts can be quickly jump to how they might misuse what we offer rather than to what we might offer that they could use. Skepticism can keep our guard up, which keeps our compassion down. The needs of our neighbors can be much more than only economic, but imagine you pass a person with a sign asking for money living in an urban area, I'm not oblivious to the fact that some people prey upon the generosity of others. That is a tragedy because it hardens our heart to those generally in need. However, the greater tragedy is to help no one to avoid being taken advantage of by someone. Instead of allowing our skepticism to determine if we help, we can cause it to be helpfully shape how we help. For example, instead of giving money, we can walk with people to a store and purchase the food they need. Sometimes slowing down can humanize our neighbors as we get to know their names, as we walk together to meet their needs. However, this may not always be possible. Keeping gift certificate with you for a nearby restaurant chain can be a wise way to meet the need without allowing skepticism to justify doing nothing. So skepticism is real because people do abuse our generosity. Sometimes they do things that are not so good. I mean, we do things that are really to help others, and they end up misusing that our generosity. I remember one time in New Jersey, this guy came to me and he said, I was in a church and he said, "Oh, my grandmother is so sick. I need to go to North Carolina to help to see her for the last time. She's about to die, and I'm really in need of $100 because I need to buy a bus ticket to go and come back. I promise that I'm gonna give you back $100 when I come back, and I'll write down the check for you in case you need to keep it to guarantee." So he wrote me a check of $100 they dated about a week later, and he left. So I gave him $100 cash. And 1 week later, I went to the bank to cash the check, right? And guess what? That check account does not exist. So there was, this guy was fake. He abused my generosity. So ever since that, I became a skeptic. Every person who comes and asks, "Oh, I need your help. I need some sort of a monetary help." You don't help them. Helping him to do, for example, alcohol, problem with alcoholism, things like that. I'm just helping him to be alcoholic. So I just decided, okay, you come at this time because I was busy, and I'll help you. And he came later on to me and said, "You needed a certain medicine, right? Okay, let's go to the pharmacy together, and I'll buy you the medicine there. Because you said you need a medicine for for diabetes. I'll buy you medicine for diabetes, but I'll go to the pharmacy to buy you. I'll pay, but you get the medicine." And then he said, "Okay, I'll come back later." And guess what? He never came back. So these are things that are very common in our lives. Okay. But if you have imagination, you can help them. You can help them. At the same time, you don't really have to be skeptical all the time, right? Okay. Our build-up, 130. Our build-up in suspicion can impede our willingness to love our neighbors on a large level. But maybe we could love our neighbors not only through individual acts of love, but also through more systematic ways. So now, in addition to loving one specific homeless neighbor, we decide to give our time, money, or resource to homeless shelter. Yet the same skepticism can seek to thwart or moving toward with this plan. What if the organization does not store my donation well? What if my time is wasted? Of course, there are ways around this too, because we can often learn about the organization's track records of storing past resources given in advance of giving them ours. Skepticism can even begin to shape our perceptions of the person in need with the little evidence to support it. Perhaps the priest and the Levite saw the man bloodied on the side of the road and concluded he probably deserved it. They could have presumed foolishness on the part of the man in need. Well, he probably was. The Samaritan, presumably riding his donkey on the road, discovered the beaten man. He stops, gets off his donkey, and does what he can do to help him. Apparently, sometimes we have to get off our donkeys to make a difference. He takes him to the nearest inn where the wounded man would have long-term care. The Samaritan pays for all of this out of his own pocket and promises to pay for an extra expenses. This is a parable about loving our neighbors as we love ourselves. Yet Jesus never tells us much about Samaritans' feelings. In our world, we use the word love to mean many things. In the same breath, we can say that we love tacos and then turn around and say that we love our family members. When Jesus talks about loving our neighbor, he's not mainly talking about feelings. He's talking about actions. Theologian N.T. Wright captures this well. So this N.T. Wright is a theologian. He's a New Testament scholar. It happens that his name is also N.T. And he is well known for his Pauline theology. It says here, as often in Jewish and Christian thought, love is first and foremost something you do, not something you feel. The feeling often follows the action, not, as in some modern thinking, the other way around. What love means first and foremost is taking through for someone, taking care of them, looking ahead in advance for their needs, in the way that you would take careful thought about and plan wisely for your own life. Love. We like to say, hey, I love you, man. I love you. Many times it's just vaguely words, right? We love each other, right? We love. Do you love me? That's a weird question. Do I love you? That's another weird question. But you say to your, boyfriend, girlfriend, or loved ones, your parents and your children, I love you, right? You say it often. Movies, you see all the time. Romance in the movies and dramas, say, hey, I love you. What does that mean when you say I love you? It means that I have feelings for you. I have this loving feeling for you. I care for you. But it's really talking about feelings, not about actions, right? You can love someone and say, hey, I love you because I feel that I love you, but you may not need to do anything, right? In the modern thinking, you have to feel it first and do the action later, right? In old days, it was the other way around. Before you feel it, I love you. Before you feel it, you have to do something to make sure that you love the person, right? Doing and feeling is very different thing, right? And sometimes we confuse that. So many times, don't trust those people who say, hey, I love you so easily, and do not do anything to you, right? This is an example of this father, alcoholic father. He does drink a lot. He always comes home late. He causes a lot of problem and a lot of pain to his wife and to his children. He's always saying something terrible when he drinks.
But when he comes at home, you know what he does? When he's sober, he sees his children and say, I love you, I love you, I love you so much. I love you, my daughter, I love you, my son, I love you, my wife. But when he's sober, he says all those things nicely, but he never does anything. He never brings bread to home. He never stops drinking. He never does anything that causes, he never stops doing things that cause pain to the family, right? Is this guy really loving his family or not? If the child is, you're always drunk, you never give anything, no food, no money, no nothing, no care to your children. You just say, because I feel it, I love you. Is this person really loving the child? Is this person really loving his family? No, right? Love needs to be proved, right? Not just feeling. And, he might even have a genuine feeling about love. He might even really, truly think that himself that he loves his family, but he's not actually, because he's not doing anything for the family. He has a problem with drinking, he cannot overcome it, and his family is less important than his addiction, right? Then you cannot really say that he loves his family, right? Right or wrong? I think many days we do, we might not go to that extreme, but we get caught into that stuff. Sometimes we say we love, but we don't do anything. Sometimes love needs to be done. It needs to be put into action, not just be said. Sometimes you need to go extra mile. And this story is about love, because this Samaritan, even though he was a Samaritan, even though he was considered as a second citizen Jewish in those days, he stopped his donkey. He went down. He had to work, right? He went down. He took the man. He put into his donkey. I don't know how heavy he was, but he did it. He went all the way walking, because obviously he had this injured person on his donkey, all the way to the nearest motel, inn, and took care of him. And he gave his own money, 2 denarii, which is 2 days of wage. In today's, like a middle class salary is about $100, $150 per day. So $200, $300 to the innkeeper, and say, take care of him. We were thinking, modern life, we're driving. This injured person is there on the street. Would you, first of all, stop the car, take this person into your car, take to the hospital, and pay your own money, $200, $300, and say, I'm going to ask you to take care of this person because this person needs some help. This person needs some treatment. And I'm going to come back and pay you more if it costs more money. Now, this is not an easy thing to do. Not easy at all. But it is an act of love. And then Jesus asked him, who is your neighbor then? Are you the good neighbor? Are you the good Samaritan? Okay. In other words, what love does. Okay? Love is action, right? Jesus' teaching showed that many times action leads the heart. Authentic love does not come from our feelings. Our feelings are not the only part of us. We also have our wills. Speaking about money, which the Samaritan had to have as well as use as part of carrying a large sum of money, and everyone knows you cannot do that on this road. There is nothing in Jesus' parable that communicates that someone's past foolishness, even if actual, alleviates us from the responsibility to act lovingly. Countless times I have heard people tell me that homeless people in Los Angeles just need to get a job, right? We say the homeless people, hey, you need to get a job, right? The rationalization goes something like this. They are homeless because they are lazy, so why should I help them? Yes, able-bodied and able-minded people in need should do that, should what they can to improve their situation. However, a high percentage of people experience homelessness suffer from mental illness of one form or another. This means that many homeless people are mentally ill. Telling a person with a deliberately paranoid schizophrenia to simply get a job is not always realistic. To the point that John Claypool observes, once a person is robbed and beaten and lying by side of the road, elaborate speculation on how he got there is a second to do something about his wounds. So John Claypool is right there. How to be a hero. Let me see, comment. Wow, there's a lot left. With the priest and Levite now having passed by, Jesus continues the parable. Most of his listeners certainly thought the third character would be just a regular non-clerical Jew. Had he done that, Jesus would have made the listeners to the heroes of the story in a radical twist. The third person is a Samaritan. First century Jews regard Samaritan as loathsome and evil people. The Samaritan practiced a heretical version of Judaism and were ethnically distinct from the Jews. People of that day would have expected any humane, heroic, or compassionate response from a Samaritan. His love from a Samaritan, a love. 132 is missing. Okay. Yeah, 132 is missing. Sorry about this. I'm gonna read from here. As well as use a part of his love for his neighbor, Jesus says, where your treasure is, there's your heart will also. Sometimes feeling follow determination to do act of love. Authentic feelings of indifference can be transformed by genuine will to make a difference. The Samaritan's guarantee of paying any extra expenses incurred in the care of the hunting man in an important detail. In Jesus' day, there were no credit cards. The man clearly had just been robbed, so he would not have had any cash. If the amount to nurse him back to health was more than what the Samaritan had paid, the owner of the inn would have been illegally obligated to sell the man into slavery as a debtor, as the man would not have had the money to cover the debt. It was the law of the day. The Samaritan is guaranteeing that the man will not only healthy but also free. Loving our neighbors can often require some thoughtful consideration about all their needs, not just the immediate ones. All this talk of loving our neighbors can sometimes sound like we are talking about legalistic, works-based salvation. The best summary found in the Bible on how grace, faith, and good works are designed by God to all come together in our lives is found in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 to 10. It is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from ourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Martin Luther put it in this way: salvation is by faith alone, but true faith never remains alone. Grace does not free us from loving our neighbors. Grace is when God saves us so that we desire to love our neighbors as well. So going back to this reading, 133. Hang on, we're just maybe 5 minutes away. Thankfully, many Christians have taken this call to love our neighbors seriously. In fact, this is the mission of the number one non-profit hospital network by size of the U.S., Ascension. Rooted in the loving ministry of Jesus as healer, we commit ourselves to serving all people with special attention to those who are poor and vulnerable. It started with a just few Jesus followers trying to love their neighbors as well. It's non-profit, but last year its revenues were higher than of the Facebook, Starbucks, or Southwest Airlines. Additionally, 4 of our 5 largest non-profit hospitals networks in the U.S. are run by Christians trying to live out Jesus' concern for the poor and the vulnerable. So out of 5, 4 of the largest hospital network in the United States, they're Christian run, trying to live out this story that Jesus tells to the people about the Good Samaritan. It's not just hospitals. Sociologists have shown that local churches created what is called a halo effect with both social and economic uplift to the area, including to many people who are not part of the congregation. It's amazing what can happen when each follower of Jesus takes seriously his command. Of course, not every act of loving our neighbors will be noteworthy. As Fred Kardec once pointed out, most of us will not this week christen a ship and write a book or end a war, appoint a cabinet, dine with the king, cover the nation, or be burned at the stake. More likely, the week will present no more than a chance to give a cup of water, write a note, visit a nursing home, vote a county commissioner, teach a Sunday school class, share a meal, tell a child a story, go to the choir practice, and feed their neighbor's cat. Love does not have to be sensational to be loved. Sometimes it is simply about being available and faithful. So love is not something big that we need to do. Love is something small, but do it genuinely, right? What kind of neighbor will I be? Availability and faithfulness are not necessarily dramatic, but they are inherently costly. This parable makes it clear that if we love our neighbors only when it requires no time, energy, money, or risk, we will never love our neighbors as ourselves. All love is costly. That is what Jesus showed us, not just in this parable, but in his own life when his love for the world led him to a red and bloody way known as the cross. He saw we were in need, and it was within his power to help us. Thanks be to God that he did not pass by. Jesus finished the story with a simple question. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who was in need? The answer is obviously right, the one who showed mercy. Jesus says, go and do likewise. Did you catch the significant twist that Jesus makes? The lawyer starts with the question, who is my neighbor? In the beginning, it is asked from a perspective of who are obligated to help. By the end, Jesus asks the question from the perspective of the man who was in need of help. Who is my neighbor? Now has become, what kind of neighbor will I be? What started as a discussion about the nature of the people, he has now become an unanswered question of our nature. That's the power of these stories. They're complete in their telling, yet incomplete in their effect, until we decide how we will respond to them. Jesus doesn't make his original lessons to the heroes of the story. Instead, he invites us to do it.